Is getting very interesting in the Congress party and the race to be the next Congress president. Just days after Ghulam Nabi Azad exited from the Congress party, two more members of the so-called G-23 made some very interesting comments over the upcoming elections for a new party president. One of them, Manish Tiwari, says that there should be transparency in the publishing of the electoral rolls. The other was Shashi Tharoor, who said that 2 to 3 people are ready to contest the polls. He did not name who those people are. He did not say if he will be one of those two to three people. Can the G-23 find a replacement for the Gandhis at the helm of the Congress?
Certainly, I think it's important that everybody should have transparency on the electoral rolls.
नहीं भी होगा, जो भी होगा वो चपरासी की तरह फाइल लेके जाएगा, किसको बनाना है, किसको नहीं बनाना।
All right, on the talking point this evening, Supriya Srinath, Congress spokesperson, is joining us. Sanjay Jha is a political analyst, formerly associated with the Congress party. But let me start with you, Supriya, and I'll start with what one of your colleagues, Manish Tiwari, tweeted this morning, and which, on the face of it, appears to be a legitimate question. He tweeted to the election in charge of your party, Madhusudan Mistry, asking why are the electoral rolls not being publicized, either put on the INC website or put out in the public domain, because after all, if you're going to elect someone, you should know who the electors are. It's a basic principle in any election.
Thank you for having me on the show, and quite frankly, some of what people say publicly amuses me, but I'm not going to make a comment there. I think I'm going to make a larger comment on this whole election of president and what we are trying to do here. Without getting into semantics and without getting into hyperventilation, Congress is the only party, political outfit in the country that does an election of its president. It is a mere coincidence that there have been unanimous choices in the recent past, but there have been elections to the Congress presidency. People even contested against Mrs. Gandhi, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, like Jitin Prasad. Even though people thought there would be factionalism, he turned out to be her political secretary after losing to her. So that said, the Congress does elections unlike any other political party in this country. There is a way Congress elections happen. I am a delegate, and I did not become a delegate because somebody liked my face or somebody said, go ahead, Supriya Srinath should be a delegate. I had to go, do booth work, get members. That booth committee nominated a block committee, and that block committee elected a PCC delegate. So 9,000 people within the party are going to vote for who the next Congress president will be. If it isn't a unanimous choice, if you're a Congress leader and you have 10 delegates supporting you, you can be. One second, let me just finish.
Just give me 10 seconds.
Let me just finish.
10 seconds. Isn't it a legitimate question to ask, at least by those 9,000 people, who are these 9,000 people? Who are these people who are going to elect your party's next president?
Fair point indeed. And I think Mr. Madhusudan Mistry, but I will first finish my point before I come to yours, because you do get into the habit of asking a question just when somebody is speaking. And I respect that. I was making a point about, I wish this is going to be unanimous too, and like a Congress person, I would want the man who I call my leader to be the next Congress president. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if for any other reason, it is a competition wide open. Anybody who has 10 delegates supporting their name can contest an election, unlike in any other party where you will be put in a Margdarshak Mandal if you were to ever do so, or be chucked out of the parliamentary board if you have a dissenting view. Now, to answer your question, I think Madhusudan Mistry ji, as the chairman of the Chief Election Authority, has very categorically said these 9,000 names is not names that he is holding close to his chest. These names will be made available to anybody who files a nomination and whose nomination is cleared. And I think that's absolutely fair. That's what happens even in elections. I do electoral politics. Once I know that once the authorities know I'm a candidate, I get electoral rolls, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. How is that wrong? So the question coming from somebody who's been a part of electoral politics, I find it very funny.
Sanjay Jha, so instead of doing this shadow boxing, which is what Mr. Tharoor and Mr. Tiwari seem to be doing, why don't they make clear if they want to stand for an election to be the next Congress president, whether Rahul Gandhi stands or somebody else stands? Are they going to throw their hat in the ring instead of making these loaded statements?
Well, Zaka, a very valid question. And I do believe that Sashi is contemplating a run. He's got to take the final call on his own. He's been pretty, I think, vocal about the fact that he's contemplating it by the article that he wrote, which was, I think, pretty much obvious in terms of the manifestation of his future intent. Now, he should go ahead with it, in my opinion. He's a terrific person. He's got a phenomenal, shall we say, credentials. I think India needs an outlier, someone who's not the conventional politician. Obviously, a lot of people will believe he caters to the urban elite, to the intellectual, to the liberal, etc. But I think, people who know Sashi well will tell you that he is a people's man. And, all those people who believe that his Hindi is not good, well, he's worked very hard on it as well. And at the end of the day, you need someone who can be a good administrator. He's genuinely, I think, one of the great proponents of I think, the idea of India that is very often used. And he will be a terrific candidate. Now, obviously, if there is competition, Zaka, there could be somebody else standing. It could be somebody from G-23. It could be a nominee from the other side of the fence, which is good, because this is how the Congress actually is meant to be. More dynamic, not running down each other. Supriya and I don't have to get into an acrimonious exchange. We have similar ideological, I would say, compatibility. So if there is going to be a candidate, let's say Mr. Kharge or Mukul Wasnik or Ashok Gehlot, let there be debates, let there be conversations, let them campaign.
But Sanjay, can I ask one question? Are you seriously suggesting that if Mr. Tharoor or Mr. Tiwari or whoever it is from the quote-unquote G23 side is going to choose to run, and if Rahul Gandhi, or for that matter, Rahul Gandhi's nominee decides to run, that any of these folks even stand a chance among those 9,000 people who will ultimately elect the next president?
But Zaka, let me tell you, if Mr. Rahul Gandhi stands or Priyanka stands, no one has a chance against them. And I will give it to the Congress that they love the Gandhis. I was in South India recently in Kerala, and I can tell you in Tamil Nadu, in Kerala, in Karnataka, in Telangana, Andhra, the Gandhi political brand still is very formidable. So, while it's very easy to trash Rahul, I will give full marks to the fact that he still has tremendous currency down south. Having said that, I would agree with you that if the Gandhis were to stand today, they will win hands down, although I think Dr. Tharoor is an exceptional candidate. I'm not taking anything away from Rahul or anybody else, but I think Sashi would be a phenomenal option.
Okay.
However, even if it's Mr. Gehlot or Mukul Wasnik or Mr. Kharge, or let's assume it's, give me another, let's Supriya Shirinde. If Supriya stands, she will still win. If the Congress knows that she is the chosen nominee of the High Command, even Supriya will win. So yes, I agree with you that in that case, Sashi